We're giving away 2 professors' researches how to enter. Make sure you like, comment, and make sure to subscribe to the channel, and we will pick 2 comments. And on Saturday, we will let you guys know in Discord and in YouTube. So be on the lookout for that, and we'll see you there. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. We're gonna go over the best decks that you should be playing that are brand new from the new set. So that being said, there has been 2 tournaments so far, one that's actually ongoing and has over 180 participants. And I do want to do the metagame. Shout out to Jay Dankus. This is his tournament that he's running, and basically let's go over what we see in the metagame. We have 14 Magnezones and Magnezone EX. The brand new one is out, so that is going to be an interesting meta development in the how that plays out, and we'll definitely get into that deck because that deck seems a little strong. 13 Mega Charizard X and Mega Charizard Y combinations, 13 Mega Lucarios, 12 Sceptile and Kartana version, the Ultra Beast versions, and then we have Altaria Igglybuff, and then Sweebax at 9, and then we got different variations of Sceptile and Lucario looming around with Darkrai. And yesterday there was another tournament with 147 people in it, and you know, we had 13 Zoroark and Mega Absols, 9 Sceptiles, 8 Lucarios. So you're seeing a lot of, you know, different variants of every single deck, and here I'm gonna bring you the most successful builds that you should be playing. Let's talk about Magnezone EX. Yes, this is going to be an Oricorio Magnezone deck, but instead of optimizing with 2 bricks, you know, you want to play 1 EX and 1 Magnezone that makes your opponent flip. Of course, you do want to have that 130 damage. It is really strong, and coming in at with 180 HP. It definitely is kind of like the other one that does 110, but you definitely want the extra damage because we're in a metagame where, you know, Pokemon are having 150 plus HP for a normal EX now, and not only that, Mega Pokemon are like, you know, coming 180 plus, 190 plus. So, you know, you definitely need to be leveraging all of the damage that you could get here. Now, we are playing the one with the Electrike and Mega Manectric as a backup. Your main attacker here is going to be the Magnezone, and then we have Oricorio for, you know, Safeguard. Safeguard has been very strong since, you know, it came out into the game. Although there are more answers because, like, you know, fighting is becoming way too popular, and it's just Oricorio is just gonna be phased out pretty soon. But, you know, it's still a very strong card. If you're not respecting Ori, you're still gonna get swept or, you know, lose to it. So, you know, remember, always build your decks around, you know, at least with an answer. Then you have your researches: Cyrus, Copycats, Lysias, Clements, Pokeballs, Lucky Ice Pop, Rocky Helmet, and Mesagoza. So I'm never a fan of the Mesagoza, but, you know, in this scenario, you want to find your pieces here, and Mesagoza is going to be the way to get there. So, you know, this deck did come in 5th place in the 147th tournament. It's there for a reason, right? So next up, I want to talk about the Zoroark variants. Like, this deck is fast. When I say fast, I mean fast. Like, 1 energy and you could do 90 damage. The amount of Pokemon that you play in this build, you just outspeed. You know, you could just drop everything on the board and copycat, and you don't really get punished. Even if you're playing like the Suicune matchup, you're dealing 90, and your opponent has to, you know, build up 2 energy on Suicune in order to get an effective hit, so you can move faster. Even if you get hit by 120, you'll have a backup in the back with Mega Absol or Darkrai EX. And not only that, you got Poison Barbs and Nihilego backing you up. And if you think you started bad, you have Mega Absol or Darkrai. You got Bombardier with his ability allowing you to switch Pokemon in and out, you know, for one less retreat cost. That is huge. And overall, the deck synergizes really well. I made a video on this deck because I just think it's absolutely insane. Averin plays well in here because you could get Ice Pop, Poison Barb, or Pokeball. So, you know, those options are not bad at all. You get Research, Copycats, and Cyrus. The thing with Darkrai that makes it really well with Zoroark is you deal 90, and then from then on, you could just continue to stack on Darkrai and do 20 additional, plus whatever stacking damage you have with Nihilego. So overall, very strong pick, and we're gonna go into a little interesting version of Zoroark EX, slapping in Hydreigon. You know, this did pretty well in the tournament as well. You know, it's dark. You know, you gotta take advantage of, you know, the Pokemon that you have, and when you can. Hydreigon has been a menace for a reason, and for good saying. You know, I don't disagree with this meta call myself, but Hydreigon is just super strong in the metagame since it came out. Here in this build, of course, you're gonna play your candies, you're gonna play your Pokeballs, Cyrus, Sabrina, Research, Lucky Ice Pop, and 2 Darkrai. So, you know, the deck works really good, and yeah, no, slap Hydreigon and call it a day, right? So next up, let's get into the Mega Lucario variants, and this variant is very interesting because you could use Igglybuff and Darkrai to do damage and stall, while you could draw out your Mega Lucario, build it out, and, you know, pop off with it, so, and get the energy that you need. So you do have the Researches, the Copycat, Cyrus, Leaf, and Pokemon Center Lady. Karina at 1, doing that extra damage is insane. You do have the Arena. The Arena is great for Lucario. It's just, you know, you're just stacking extra damage. And overall, I feel like this deck synergizes really well. It's one of those engine things, right, where Igglybuff and Darkrai could almost fit in to anything, and you could just slap it in and it works. We got Field Blower, Pokeball as well, so, you know, I'm excited that Field Blower is definitely a thing now that stadiums and, you know, items are becoming very common in the metagame. Another build that's doing good, we do see a Hitmonchan, Mega Lucario, and regular Lucario. So the regular Lucario could be there, you know, just for the extra plus 20, and not even only because of that, you could make it into attacker. Worst case scenario, everything synergizes well because you have Corina, you have the Arena, you have you know, multiple ways of stacking damage here. You got Rocky Helmet, and, you know, you have Copycat for the consistencies, Researches, Cyrus, X-Speed, Lucky Pops, and yeah. X-Speed is really good because whenever you want to, you know, back out of your Lucarios, you do not want to detach energy because that's like the most neg thing that you can do. But overall, it's fast, it hits for 50, and, you know, the thing is, Hitmonchan has 130 HP, so, you know, it could stay there for a long time, and your opponent just has to sit there and eat 50. Or if they have an EX Pokemon, they'll take an additional 20 to that. And then we have this build right here with the Bonsly. So it definitely is the same as the other one, but, you know, utilizing that minus 30 damage for like the following turn is pretty good, and your opponent needs like about like 60 to knock out Bonsly whenever this thing attacks, and it's just pretty good to have there to stall a little bit while you look for your missing pieces. You have Professor's Research, Copycat Cyrus, Pokemon Center Lady, Karina, Pokeballs, X Speed, Rocky Helmets, and Arena. Overall, it's gonna be like the Machamp, and pretty much it's just pick your poison, right? Next up, we have an update on the Alolan Ninetails builds. So Alolan Ninetails did struggle a little bit, but you know, the Parasol Lady here, making it so much better, a little bit more consistent. Like you could repeat your Crawdots because you could put one water Pokemon in play, and just put it into your hands. So you could keep repeating with Crawdot. You don't have to play Team Rocket's Grunt or anything funky. Sightseer, and then you're playing Hiking Trail for the consistency. Ninetales, if it gets set up way quicker before you, it could definitely give you a lot of trouble, so be on the lookout for this deck. Next up, we have Mega Blaziken. Yes, people are playing it with cast form. A lot of people, everybody's playing stadiums, and of course this deck as well. Hiking Trail, you could get free burns, when you attack with this Pokemon when there's a stadium in play, and you want to play the Hiking Trail, and you want the most consistent Blaziken to pop out. And this card, I feel like it's a fun variant that does well into the meta. We have Copycats, Professor's Researches, Cyrus, Sabrina, Flame Patch, Rare Candy, Pokeballs, Rocky Helmet, and the Hiking Trails. Blaziken, I'm really excited to see what Blaziken can do because, it's kind of like Sceptile, but, I think so far Blaziken might be a little bit better, but, let's not really put some disrespect on the Sceptile's name because they are performing really well into the metagame. And here is another variant using regular Sceptile and then the baby Sceptile, because you want an answer to Oricorio, and then this is basically what's going to give you that answer. And then we are basically playing Celebi for the time recall. You have Professor's Research, Sabrina, Erica, Cyrus, Rare Candies, Lucky Ice Pop, Quick Grow Extract, a Leaf Cape, Pokeball, and the Fragrant Forest. So the forest is going to allow you to search for any basic Pokemon, any grass basic Pokemon. It could be an infinite Pokeball if you have it out there, but you could definitely play either two of them or just one and one like this person. And overall, it's just pretty good. It's because seeing the Pokeball and then the forest, you're not going to be able to use Fragrance twice. So if you have the Pokeball and the forest, you could activate the forest, search, Pokeball, search, and then maybe Professor's Research after thinning out your deck. So, there's many options on how to play this. And then we have the famous one that's been popping off, the Ultra Beast version with Formosa and Nihilego. You're going to utilize the Poison Barb and the Nihilego here because your Mega Sceptile is definitely going to poison your opponent. So you definitely want that, to pop off whenever it can. Professor's Research, Copycats, Cyrus, 2 Pokeball, 1 Forest, and 2 Rare Candies. So the growth tile there is to snipe anything in the back as well. So 50 damage is pretty noticeable, like to hit on any Pokemon and to follow up with Mega Sceptile or anything else. But this build is super strong, and I do enjoy playing Mega Sceptile over the Blaziken. Maybe partly because it's brand new, but then again, grass definitely feels great, and having access to Formosa, just hitting everything on the bench makes life so much easier, because then you could Cyrus in Absols for game, or even Darkrai's, because we're seeing a lot of Darkrai's in the metagame too being used with Zoroark, so it would be amazing to use. But yeah, that's basically gonna be it. Let me know what decks you guys are gonna be playing, and we will see you guys next time. Peace.